Art Stars, we have reached our last class of this term, and I have saved one of my favorite things for last for you, and this is creating a comic book character. Now, some of you may know I come from a fashion and textiles background, and so what we call fashion dolls, or how you would draw for fashion design, is very similar to comic books and storytelling. And of course, when you're creating a comic book, the accessories and the clothes and everything that they have on plays a part into their personality. So I've got attached to this 2 PDFs for you. One is our classic body canons, which you can always visit back previous sessions if you need a refresher, and help yourself with the body canons to get your base of the character. And I've got a second PDF for you with these little cheat sheets. And so our first one is about shape. And now shapes all have different qualities to them. We like to put emotions and human qualities to inanimate things sometimes. And so I thought we'd go through the shapes. And so a square means stability, because you can't knock it on its side. It's a very stable shape. And with that comes honesty. It also is a practical shape, because it's one of the shapes we recognize the most easily, and is a very tidy shape. So you can fit a lot of squares next to each other. It's also rational. So when you hear the expression thinking outside the box, it's because the box is very logical and rational. And it also means conformity. So there's no surprises in a box. It's all very expected. Then we have triangles. Now, triangles can mean power. And of course, it's a very dynamic shape. So it means action. If you think of arrows pointing to places and things, there's a lot of movement associated with a triangle. There's also tension, because if you put it this way, it might be stable. But if you look at a triangle this way, it could tilt either way. It's not a very stable shape. Direction, like we said, similar to action. Arrows help you point you in the right direction. And purpose. So similar to action and direction, there's a lot of sort of strength to this shape. And lastly is our circle. So circles mean harmony, because there's a lot of balance to this shape. There's not one part that overtakes from the other. It's all the same. And similarly, it means unity, because there's no beginning and no end. It brings things together. We think of wedding rings and things like that to symbolize that circle. It's got those qualities to it. Energy. So it can mean, if you look at it especially more in a spiral kind of way, there's an energetic movement to that. It means grace. So it's a very soft shape. If you think of the triangle and the square, they have corners and they're a little bit edgy. So a circle is very soft, very feminine in a way, because it's all about keeping that grace and lightness. And finally, it means complete. So in a circle, very similarly to the unity and not having a beginning and an end, there is a completeness in seeing the whole pie. And we think of a lot of the shapes in the universe. Spheres and circles really dominate a lot of nature and what we can connect to easily. So that is our shapes. The other thing that has some qualities to it is colors. And this is important because to tell the story of our comic book character, we're going to bring both the shapes and the colors together to create their personality. So first we've got blues and greens. Now, blue means tranquility and loyalty. So blue again is similar a bit to the square. There's quite an honest trustworthiness to blue. It also means intelligence. So when someone's very calculating, it might be associated with blue. And it's also considered a cold color. So when somebody's a little bit cold, you might associate them with blue as well. Turquoise is between blue and green, and it means spiritual and healing. It means protection. And so it takes a little bit of this blue, of that stability and honesty. And then we'll see later in our green, it borrows a little bit from that to create this combination of protection and spirituality. And it also means sophistication. It's these colors, when they're in between, they're not a primary color, they're not a secondary color. They're somewhere in the tertiary and sometimes even slightly more removed depending on the tone. So this one equals sophistication. Then green, it's one of my favorite colors, can be associated with money. Of course, we all associate greed with money as well, so it can go both ways, positive and negative. Growth, and of course nature, if we look outside at the trees and the plants, they're all mostly green. So similarly, freshness and growth, I think we associate with nature and those qualities to green. Then we have fertility, and similarly to that one, I think it's because of the connection to nature and how everything springs up. And there's a lot of life cycle happening on there. And lastly, it is associated with envy. So when we hear, oh, the green monster's coming out, is maybe you're a little bit jealous of somebody, and it's usually represented with a green color. Next up, we have purple. Now, purple is the color of royalty. It's also, similarly to turquoise, a spiritual color. And a lot of religions have purple attached to them. It also means ambition. So if somebody's driven, they might have a bit of purple. My favorite thing about purple is it's the color of magic as well. So if someone's a little bit mysterious or magical, they might have a bit of purple going on. So magic and mystery. Red. And red, of course, like our hearts, the first meaning for it is love and passion. And of course, it's the color of our blood. So everything that involves those sort of passionate feelings, red is gonna get close to. So similarly to yellow, it means energy and power. So there's a lot of strength to red. It means heat, of course, from fire. If something is red hot, you're not going to touch it. And on the opposite scale to love, it also means anger. So in that passion scale, it can go both from love to anger. And pink, final of this family, it means health. So because of our skin, I think, and seeing a rosy complexion is usually associated with health versus when you're looking pale, you might be thinking, oh, that person's ill, or if they've got more of a greenish tint. So pink is health. Compassion, because it's quite a soft color. and it's a very feminine color. It kind of brings in that sort of softness of compassion and sweet. It's also playful. Pink kind of makes you want to be maybe a bit more childlike and play around, but on the other side, it is also associated with immature. So as you can see, all colors have their positive and their negative, and depends on what story you're going to tell how that color is going to be used. So our last family is brown, which means earthy, and of course we know what that is. Soil is brown, and so immediately the ground, that stability, we think of brown. It also means friendly. Brown is quite an approachable color. It always makes me think of chocolate, and chocolate makes me happy, so that might be just my association with it. But it's a very comforting and comfortable color. It means dependable. It also means conservative. So similarly to our square shape, brown is very safe. It's not an adventurous color. It goes with everything, so it can always fall in the background. So that is a conservative color. And lastly, it means longevity. And I think of tree trunks and how they can grow for thousands and thousands of years, and that richness of different tones of brown going through it. We've got yellow, and yellow means bright and happy. I think it's a color that when you immediately see it, it makes you feel that way. It brightens you up. And so it means energy. Creative. Creativity has a yellow tinge to it, or so do some of the experts think. It's a very happy color, and it's also a color for intelligence. And orange might borrow a little bit from red and a little bit from yellow, but makes up its own thing. So it means courage. Orange is a very brave color, and if we think of the mixture of yellow and red, it might be that passion and intelligence together to form courage. Confidence, and you think about it, maybe if somebody's wearing orange, it's quite a loud color, so it's not somebody that's hiding, it's somebody that wants to be seen. It means success. Similarly to brown, it's a friendly color. And finally, on the negative side, it can also mean sluggish. If someone's a little bit lazy, it might be represented with orange. Now, I want you to take these, and that's why I gave you the little PDF with a cheat sheet in case you want to come back to these and recheck them while you're creating your story. I've gone ahead and drawn 3 basic shapes here, and basic human shapes, and I just want to show you how, depending on whether I use a square, a triangle, or a circle to represent this character, how maybe we can use and change the body. So I'm going to go ahead and maybe tip you guys a little bit further down here so you can see my paper properly. And we are going to start. I've got my pencil today, a fine liner to define our character. And then I grabbed some colored crayons just to give you guys an idea. But as always, feel free to use any paints or coloring utensils that you prefer and inspire you, because that's really important. I think there's something to be said about the textural sort of experience of your materials. So for the first one, I'm going to grab my first cheat sheet here and think again of our square and the stability and honesty and rational sort of qualities to this shape. And so you might think of places to square up. So I'm going to start with a face, and I'm going to give him a very square jaw. So I'm going to draw slightly hard on this so you can see what I'm doing. But of course you're going to do it with your light touch until you're ready to define those lines. And this character might also have a very broad sort of shoulder line. Not much of a waist. And because I think he's a very rational character, I'm going to go ahead and start hinting here at glasses in his face. Give him kind of not very soft hair. Make it a little bit geometrical as well, so that we start getting a bit more of an idea of this character. And so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in some trousers here. And make these very straight. And you might remember this trick from our previous sessions drawing bodies. I always like to do a crease or two around the knee, just so that we get an idea still of the body and it doesn't lose its shape too much. And I think he's going to be slightly nerdy. We're going to give him a button-up shirt. We're going to do the sleeves on his shirt. Okay. And again here, where the elbow creases, I'm going to add a little bit of folding on the shirt. And if you're not sure sometimes, it's helpful to do the actions and watch, what your clothes do and how they fold when you're moving. So there we go, that's one. And you can see it doesn't take a big line, just a little hint sometimes goes a very long way. And I'm going a bit quick because I'm going to show you all three, but I want you to take your time with one character and really develop the story to who they are and why they are the way they are. Okay, and so, let me give him some shoes. We're going to, again, give him very square feet, I think. Maybe with some laces. There we go. There we have the first representation of our square character. And so I think he's like quite an honest, rational, nerdy kind of computer guy. And so you want to go in then and do the facial features. And so I've already given him some glasses to kind of express that. I might give him some really straight eyebrows, like from people that are always thinking. I feel like they have straightish eyebrows when people are thinking. And do a little hint of an eye. And sometimes a little line can help, especially with the eyes. you don't want to go and make too many lines there. Sometimes the more you do the outline of the eye, the weirder it looks. There we go. And the nose, again, we're going to make him quite a serious guy. So he's got quite a serious small nose. And let me just rub out some of those lines. And here we are, our first character complete. Now, triangle. And I think for this one, I'm gonna make it a slightly more mischievous character. Maybe this one's a little bit magical too, and he might be purple later on. So the first place where I'm going to turn into a triangle is the face again. So I'm going to make it so that it's inverted triangle, and the chin is very thin and pointy. Now, I think I want this guy to be a little bit bony and skinny. So what I might do is like a weird triangle for his torso. So I'm gonna draw here as if there were a V coming out of his neck. And from the top of that V, I'm gonna come into a very skinny waist. Oh, hold on. Let me make those V's a little bit longer and not so deep. Because these, I want his shoulders to be a bit like spiny up shoulders. And you can just play around with these kinds of shapes and see what happens when you apply it to a different part of the body. So he's going to have a very tiny waist. And the arms are going to be super skinny. Almost like little triangles again. And I just want to show you a sort of more balanced one, a more exaggerated one, to show you how you can take it to different places, and you can make it more of a realistic comic book, or you can make, you know, characters that are complete fantasy. And maybe even the fingers are a bit pointy. And so there you can start seeing a very different kind of character come through from the first one. And so now the legs. If we're continuing with a kind of skinny type character, they're going to start a bit big here and go. Maybe the calves are very pointy triangles. Oh, I've done that backwards. So when you're looking at a character from the front, actually, that's a really good mistake to have made. Usually, the line on the inside of the leg is more straight. And maybe you can see here on this one, the line on the outside gets a bit more curve of the calf. So that's just a good pointer when you're doing dead head straight characters. It's good to follow that guide. Lovely. Now I'm quickly gonna do our facial expressions here. And so I think following on from that triangle, I might give him a super long nose. Very triangle-y. And a little sort of cupid-y mouth. And very angled eyebrows. There we go. That's our number 2. And we are going to leave him bald, I think. And finally, our circle. And because of the nature of our bodies, obviously the circle is the easiest to introduce because there's already a roundness to the shape of our bodies. But we're going to go ahead and play with maybe the proportions on this last one. So I'm going to go ahead and do more round than oval here for the face, first of all. And immediately I can think of introducing maybe 2 circles for really beautiful full cheeks on this one. So we're going to do, just for now, 2 circles here, and then we're going to come back to it. Just as if they were big clown makeup on. But we're going to come and refine that afterwards. Then the body, we can play, so far I've kept these 2 very true to the length of a human shape. But with this one, we can play with the proportions. So I'm going to try and start raising things. So I'm going to make his torso a little bit shorter than normal. And so if this is my new waistline, maybe give him some big hips. And we're going to give him really muscly arms. So what I'm going to try and do is similarly do lots of circles on here, where say your shoulder, then your bicep would be. Try and think of when it's bodybuilder, how all those different muscles stick out. Okay, and I'm just going to do the other arm quickly. And now for the legs. So similarly, playing with these different proportions, I'm going to make his legs a little bit smaller. A little bit short, just like me. Maybe he's got these very lovely wide feet. Okay. And so we're going to just come back to the face with this guy. And I'm going to get these circles that I drew a little bit lower because I think they're a bit high on the face. If we think our eye line is here, we want these circles to be more like here. Okay. So I'm going to give him nice big arches for the eyes. So the bigger your area, the more detail you can put in it. And because his eyes are so much bigger than the other guys, I can put in a little bit more detail to the iris and the little bits of white in there. And now we're going to give him a really nice big nose. There we go. That's a nice, lovely, welcoming smile to this character. And I think this one's got bouncy curly hair to support our round character. So when you're doing curly hair, you do lots of little waves and then kind of you close them so that it becomes little triangular, almost like half moon flecks. And that's an easy way of doing curly hair. And if you feel it's looking too tidy, you do some the other direction. And there we go. That is our 3 characters. I'm going to go ahead and finish up just this first guy, just to show you where you can take it. Okay, and so now I have it defined with my fine liner. And you can do several things from this point on. You can go ahead and color this guy in. You can take a spare piece of paper and trace him over and play with different expressions, say especially if you were creating a full comic where there's development and story and the characters doing different things. You can practice different expressions, different poses, and then kind of create your catalog of movement for this character. And it's really handy to sometimes have extra copies that you can just lay on top. So I always try and keep an original with just pen to come back to and do different versions. But for this example, I'm gonna go ahead and just use color directly on this one. And so I think he would have some navy trousers. And when you're doing different fabrics, you can use the crayon or paint, the strokes of the brush, whatever you're using, in your favor. So for example, if these are jeans or a cotton trouser, there'd be lines going up and down and across side to side. So that's what I'm gonna do with my crayon. I'm going up and down first. And then I'm gonna take it and go across. And here's where the cool part comes in. When you get to things like creases over here, you can follow that curve and that shape a little bit. And then your following line, you offset it a little bit up or down from this part so that it looks like where the fold is, the lines are, it's the fabric lines kind of following a crease or a fold in the fabric. And those little details really make something come to life. And then, for example, if I've done this blue here, you can then take a gray on top, say for example this medium gray, and come just at the sides of it. So here on the edge, and maybe follow under the crease, just to create a little bit of extra shading. Like so, and you can see it's very subtle, but it suddenly feels like this, there's a little bit more 3D-ness to it. It's not as flat. Let's go ahead and do a shirt super quick, and I think I'm just gonna use a yellow because I think happy, intelligent, stable, rational is the character that I am going for. So I feel like these colors play really well into that. And so here, for example, you might want to color a little bit lighter, maybe in the chest where there'd be more light than in the rest of the body. Just again to help that, that flatness disappear a little bit. And again, I'm just going to take my gray and go along the sides first. And really think of what bits are shadowing which you guys are super good at by now because you've practiced it loads. And so let's see if you can see here this shaded side versus this one that is flat. You can start to see some lift there. And again, we're going to do the creases a little bit. Go ahead and do this line where the fabric sits one on top of the other. And don't forget under the collar. So anywhere where your clothes would cast a shade on the rest of them. There we go. I am going to leave you with that there. Leave the rest to your imagination. And I can't wait to see what you come up with. Thank you, Art Stars. Bye.